Hello and welcome to Why We Are Christians. My name is Kent Philpott. I'm pastor of Miller Avenue Baptist Church in Mill Valley, California, that's San Francisco Bay Area. But we're talking to somebody on the opposite side of the continent, way back in New York, in fact, Long Island, New York. We're talking to Jenn Nizza. Hi, Jenn.
Hi, Kent. It's nice to be here with you from the East Coast.
I'm so glad. I think it was in the March or April, I think April edition of Christianity Today. It was a story about you. And actually, you wrote this piece. It's called, I Cried Out to the Name Demons Fear Most. And when I saw that, I said, we got to get her on the program. So thank you. Thank you very much. So you're at home there in New York?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So want to start out, as usual in our programs. Give us a little background about who you are, where you grow up, family, school.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I'm here on Long Island, New York, and that is where I grew up. I was raised culturally Catholic, which for anybody listening or watching right now, that means that my holidays, such as Christmas, were more about the food and the lights and Santa Claus and things like that, as opposed to Jesus Christ. Church was not really a thing, except for sometimes on holidays maybe, or other things that were going on. I went through the motions of communion and, the sacraments, the Catholic sacraments, without even understanding what it meant. And I grew up with my mom and dad and my sister. And at a very young age, I was exposed to divination. And I don't know if you want me to get into that yet, or you want me to wait.
Now, you say exposed to divination. What do you mean by that?
Sure. So divination, which is a term that I definitely wouldn't have known back then, is when you are looking to creation to extract supernatural information out of, such as the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, etc. Also, divination is the desire to and choice to communicate with, as I now know, demons, but you don't know that at the time. So you're going outside of God's will and boundaries, seeking hidden knowledge supernaturally. So I was exposed to that because in my home, it was very acceptable to talk about paranormal activity, lights flickering, things being moved around in the house, whatever it may be, even the term ghost. But then I had my first tarot card reading at the age of 13, which is a tool of divination, tarot cards.
Were your parents at all aware of what was going on?
Absolutely not. Well, they were not aware that divination is condemned by God or that it was a door opening to demons. They were aware of the tarot card reading because, and I always say this, Kent, we're not going to throw my mom and dad under the bus, right? Because we love them. But they were really deceived. My mom actually arranged for the tarot card reader to come to the house and do these little private readings. And she allowed my sister and I both to get readings that day.
And that was at an era in our country when that kind of phenomenon, what I would refer to as psychic phenomenon, began. We saw it in film, we saw it on television programs, books were out, and it was alluring, exciting. And I think that you were one of many who got caught up in that, and even more so today. Mm-hmm. So you had no idea of what you were engaging in.
Zero idea. And I was all of those things, allured, attracted. When I had that first reading, I was extremely intrigued by it. I was captivated by it. All the things that you just mentioned, how so many people, which is it's so unfortunate, not surprising now, of course, understanding what it is and how the devil lures people and puts that illusion of these, and I would also call it the psychic phenomenon. He puts the illusion that these tools of divination and any divination is helpful or good or healing. He makes you think that way. And it's not, of course. I had no idea.
Yeah, but it's very compelling. There's no way of saying this is just illusion. It's something in my mind. It is concrete and evident. Would you agree to that, Jenn?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I deal with that a lot, Kent, where people might say, oh, that's just crazy talk or what have you, but you are absolutely right. No, this is supernatural information being given by demons that it's not out of control. It's a controlled setting. It's information, and maybe we'll get there, and I pray that we do, that is, there'll be accurate information in these readings.
Yes. Now, I'm suspecting, Jenn, that if somebody's watching this program and they're listening to you here, that they might say, well, I think this woman has gone over the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after reading your piece in Christianity Today, it was very evident that you were far
Mm-hmm.
from that. You were dealing with reality. You experienced these events. Could you describe one or two encounters?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Oh gosh, there are so many. When I was doing readings, I have, oh gosh, I'll never forget this. I actually have this in my first book, I think. A woman came for a reading, and so without going through the whole thing, but I obviously was channeling. I was channeling demons, and I was doing these readings, psychic mediumship readings, and the information that started to, it's the verbiage though, come through, which means that I believe that this information was coming through from a deceased person or a spirit guide. And this information was all about this woman's husband cheating. So real quick, to go back to your point that this is not a mental illness, okay? A mental illness doesn't behave that way, look that way. This is information about a perfect stranger that is accurate that I could never have known. A perfect stranger about her husband cheating, so on and so forth. So let's move forward to, it was confirmed by this woman, and later on that night, my phone rang. Office hours were closed, and my phone rang, and I normally wouldn't pick it up, but I did. And I picked it up, and it was that woman that I had read. And she wanted me to channel the person, the adulteress, the address of that person. And I was blown away by this for some reason. And of course, I just got rid of the phone, hung up the phone. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't even going to attempt to. What kind of evil was this woman about to do? Should I have channeled that address? She was probably going to go in there like gangbusters, if you know what I mean. And so that's one. I mean, there's so many. I have so many different. I had another encounter, if you will. I don't know if you mean just from a reading or a demonic encounter. I've had so many. When I was heading towards psychic mediumship, demons started manifesting in my home and even more. And I started to see them.
Okay, you know what? I would have to say, Jenn, that I had the same experience one time. But I wanted to say to you and to our listening audience that I had that same experience, and I have talked to many people over the 5 decades of my ministry who have had that. So I do not think you're some kind of a weirdo, or you had lost psychological mental hold of the world and had drifted into some form of mental illness, which many people might suspect. But I'm here to testify that I've had those same experiences that you've just described. Very real. What was the aim of these spirits? What were they trying to do?
Well, of course, one to keep me in servitude to the devil rather than know the truth about Jesus Christ, hear the gospel, also to deceive others, to be a pawn, to do the devil's dirty work. We know that this has been going on for ages. It's not a surprise to me, of course, how often you've seen it and dealt with it. We've been seeing it for ages. The Bible is clear about that. The devil is a counterfeit, and he really wants people to go away from God, get into disobedience to God, because God is clear throughout his word not to practice this. I mean, the words are right there in the Bible that you can't even say it's a matter of an interpretation. He uses the word, he says familiar spirits, medium, spiritist, necromancy, fortune telling. And the devil's agenda, nefarious and sinister agenda, is to take as many souls down with him as possible and keep people separated from our Lord Jesus.
That's accurate, and that's right. Satan is the giver of good gifts at first, and then it turns ugly and scary and will damage a person. Were you at a point where you were making money doing this psychic work?
Yeah, later on. So when I became a professional psychic medium. When I had my first mediumship vision, if you will, it was really a dream. After that, I sought out the psychic medium that I used because, of course, I always went to divination. So these demons were multiplying around me, I'm sure of it. And she told me that I too was a medium and I needed to go to this divination group, which I did. Business card in my hand, called up when I went home, got into this group, and that's where I was exposed to many more New Age practices, and I started doing more and more readings, and then I leave that place basically with business cards in my hand, and I did that for the better part of 10 years, and at the end, meaning before Christ set me free, I was even teaching my own divination group. I was leading my own divination group, teaching people these New Age practices.
Well, did you have any idea what the nature of these beings that you were interacting with? It wasn't your imagination. You hadn't fallen into some form of mental illness. Did you have any idea of the nature of these creatures that were contacting you and you were involved with?
No, I really didn't. I really believed that there were good spirits and bad spirits, that the good spirits would be somebody's deceased loved one or a spirit guide, perhaps even an angel. And that I did know that there was something dark and bad, but I didn't know they were demons, and I wouldn't have used that word. I wouldn't have spoken about hell or the devil or anything like that. I had no idea what I was doing.
Right. Very, very deceptive and very powerful. And there's no way to deny that you are now in touch. Mm-hmm. What are the forms of the psychic phenomena that you were engaged in? Was it, what would you call it? Was tarot cards? You used tarot cards, runes? And by the way, I'm going to interrupt a minute. What is runes? I read this in your article. I don't know what runes are. R-U-N-E-S.
Oh, yeah. They look like little rocks, and they have symbols on them, and those symbols represent something. And, of course, what they represent had already been channeled. Forgive me. Just like the pamphlets, the booklets in the tarot card boxes with each deck. Any information, any representation of something, like a card, a picture, a rune, the symbol on the rune, has been channeled. That information has been channeled. So therefore coming from demons. So they're kind of like these little rocks, and you would throw them, and the same old thing with divination, and randomly uh, pick one or whatever. And yeah, that wasn't my main tool of divination though. I was the main tool of divination. I mainly did psychic mediumship readings. The other things I used from time to time at that point, tarot cards, angel cards, even playing cards, which is called cardiomancy, your regular standard deck of cards. I sought out astrology, numerology, and then that would just get incorporated into my mediumship readings. And I did a lot of automatic writing too.
Okay, now let me turn the clock back a little bit, Jenn. What would you say was the first door opener for you where you moved into this? The very first thing, at what age? What was the influence?
Yeah, that would be when I was 13, the tarot card, because prior to that, of course, I would tell you that doors were open because of the tone in my home, that it was acceptable talking about these things. But for me, I gave permission. I gave permission after I had that tarot card reading. That was what wooed me, intrigued me, and then I sought it out. I went myself and got my own cards, and I sought it out, and I was so young.
Yeah, I know that there are some people that develop their own tarot cards, that
Yeah.
designed them.
It's sad. Well, you're even seeing them, unfortunately. I think we're both passionate about this, how the youth is being targeted by the evil one. There are Disney tarot cards. There are, all kinds of things that look pretty, that look attractive, even to children. He's trying to recruit the children.
Yeah.
That's why people need to really understand that I was a very young girl, and there are people that are even younger than me that may start reporting psychic information and such. And that's where people get deceived, Kent, because then they think, oh, then you must be born that way. Or it's a gift. I mean, this little girl couldn't have really been invoking demons. And people need to know that nobody is exempt. The devil doesn't care if you're cute. You're a cute little kid. He's not going to pass by you because of that.
No. It's very deceptive. The spiritual power is undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have experiences of being afraid of those spirits at all?
Yes, quite a few times, specifically when they were presenting themselves in scary ways. So seeing these dark figures, I used to see these, for the sake of the concept, we call them ghost animals, meaning it's not a real material, it's like a translucent looking, scary, creepy. These demons would manifest in all different ways. Also, I would be very afraid even when I used to do the group readings, when I would drive home from the group readings, because I was taking these familiar spirits with me, apparently. I mean, I could see them in the rearview mirror, and I was by myself. And then I would see them in the street, on the highway. And I was doing like 50, you're on the highway, 55, 60 miles per hour. And it just makes me think of how they were trying to take me out. I really believe that, because if I were to stop short at 60 miles per hour, because you think you're going to hit a person, they look like people sometimes, familiar spirits, I could have died. But as I would approach, of course, it would fade away.
I'm going to tell you, Jenn, I'm going to tell you a little story. The first time I encountered this, it would have been in 1969. I was doing a Bible study with some adults. One of them wanted me to come and do some painting in their house, a couple. I did. I had extraordinary experiences that were crazy. I had no belief in I had 2 degrees in psychology. I was trained to be a counselor. That's what I was going to do instead of going into the ministry. And so I'm engaged with this. And on the last night of the painting, a Thursday night, I was at home in bed. My wife was next to me. All of a sudden, I heard something come in the front door, go through the living room, down the hall, open the bedroom door, climb on my bed. I saw it. I knew what it was. And I said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. It left and went out. The very next day, after the paint job was over and they paid me, this couple told me what had happened. Been visited by demonic spirits for some period of time, ravaging her, scaring them to death. And they said they wanted me to get rid of the demons. And we did. And with several demons, cast them out. The woman's been, and her and her mother have been friends of mine ever since. Real stories, real people. And I had no idea. I always thought this was mental illness, forms of it, strange stuff. And for the first time, I realized, no, this was real stuff. And you know, not imagination, real stuff. Yeah.
100% real.
Yeah. And I understand when people think, these people got to be nuts. They're making this up. This is a scary story, and that's all it is. Have you encountered that, of people saying, hey, come on, Jen, what's the matter with you?
No, not when I was actually in that. I hear that more now as I'm in ministry, and people will say, come on, that was just schizophrenia or this, that, other thing. And I'm like, listen, you can't know. Schizophrenia has, and please don't even, come at mental illness. These people come at mental illness, which they shouldn't. It's very sad, and, but this was real information, accurate information about strangers. These were real things that happened. I was thrown off a chair by a demon, and my dad heard that too. I mean, I went thump right onto the floor. These are real things that are happening, and it is really demonic. It is not mental illness, and I'm not saying mental illness isn't real, but it's certainly not channeling. It's not divination. That's two very different things. And again, it's been going on for ages. I think a lot of people tend to think that it's more of a scam, psychics and psychic readings, and that they're charlatans and such, And I'm not saying that some aren't. I'm sure some are. But that's another deception, in my opinion, because then if you think it's not real, then hey, you'll be desensitized to it. Another plan of the evil one.
That's true. Actually, in our culture, I think it would be better to be an atheist. You'd be more comfortable if you were just an atheist. I don't believe in any of this junk that the psychics, that the Christians, like anybody talks about. It's better to, we're born, we're die, that's it. And, that may be the safer position. I don't think I'm moving there, Jen. Because
I don't know how safe you're going to be, though. Then that atheist is going to have to figure out why things are happening, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
The demonic oppression. Yeah.
Now, in the next program, Jen, we're going to talk about how it is that you became a Christian. So I just want to let you know we'll do that in the next program, and also you have written some books. I want to talk about your books on both programs. Could you pick up one of your books and hold it up
Sure.
right now?
This was my first book, From Psychic to Saved.
From Psychic to Saved.
From
Okay.
Psychic to Saved. And this is, I love the picture because that just reminds me of looking up to our Lord and being free.
Is that you? Is that you on the front?
No, I could probably pass for her once my hair gets a little bit longer, but no, that's not me.
That's not you, okay. Okay.
This is more of a brief testimony and some information about how demons give psychic information, who they are, etc. And then my second book is Out of the New Age and Into the Truth.
Hold it up a little bit more. Let me see. Okay. Let me see back.
Oh, sorry.
Out of the New Age and Into the Truth. Okay.
You can reach me on my website. I have everything there. It's the hub.
Good. Okay. Have you gotten any pushback? any pushback for what you've become engaged in? Uh, People think you're wacko. You're just doing it for money. Have you had any of that kind of opposition?
Well, do you mean now that I'm saved?
Yes.
Oh, what money am I making? By the time the books do anything after self-publishing, you're actually paying to self-publish. I paid out of my own pocket to do that. But do people think I'm crazy? Sure, I do TikTok lives. They think either you're crazy, you're a grifter, this, that. I mean, these are the people in opposition, of course. Then you have the people that honestly will just find anything wrong with what you're saying and doing because you're sharing the light of Jesus Christ. And we know that the world gets very offended, meaning the world, people outside of Christ, it's offensive. The truth is offensive out there. And that's why I always say, Kent, if you think about it, it would be a lot easier for me to say nothing because I get a lot of pushback. It'd be a lot easier for me to hide, but I won't.
Well, as soon as I read this testimony you gave in Christianity Today, by the way, which is one of the most prestigious and valued and highly esteemed Christian publications in the world, Christianity Today, now known as CT, and here was your testimony. And when I read this, I said, wow. I said, the people at CT, they've got to have evaluated you, know who you are. This is no weird scamming thing that they had, because these people aren't going to do this. They would never print anything that I wrote. And as soon as I said that, I got to get a hold of her. And but frankly, although I never was into that stuff, I have done the ministry of dealing with those demonic spirits for 50 years now. And I'm very familiar with them, and nobody can ever talk me out of it. They say, come on, man, that's all just made up stuff. That spirit stuff and the demons. No. That's the real deal. And it's important that people in our culture, in our era right now, become aware of it, that there is help available, and that we don't have to be afraid. Jesus is victor over the demonic kingdom.
Amen.
Right, Jen? Right? Hey, we're going to bring you on. We just got 15 seconds left, just enough time for me to sign out, Jen. So don't go anyplace. We're coming right back, and we're going to do another program. Okay. So until the next Why We Are Christians and Jenn Nizza, so long.